Hi there, and welcome to this episode of the Everyday Millionaire Mindset Matters podcast, where I'm joined by my wife, Olympic mental performance coach, Steffany Hanlen-Francey. In these episodes, Steffany and I have a conversation about the different aspects of what we refer to as Mindset Matters, because we believe that for those who are awake, we are living in and through the most impactful time in history. Your view of the world is the filter for how you will experience the evolution and changing dynamics of it. Our intention is to provide you with ideas, nutritious food for thought, and some tools that you can use to help you in being your greatest self and living your best life. Listen in, enjoy. Hey folks, welcome to the Everyday Millionaire Mindset Matters podcast. Steffany.
Hi, hon.
I think we should be saying aloha.
Aloha.
Here we are in Hawaii at the beautiful Four Seasons in Oahu. And definitely a vacation, but there's always things to do. And we're here and happy to be doing our podcast. Had to get a little bit creative. So if you hear some background noise and wind and things, that's because we're in the hotel and there's definitely wind. You know, Hawaii is a windy place. You know, got that ocean breeze. So
exactly.
Anyways, but interesting time and interesting topic, I think, in that, last podcast we talked about change and the discomfort of change. And, this time, the topic that came up because of why we're in Hawaii is about, facing some discomfort of fear. I don't want to call it necessarily fear, but it could be fear. That's definitely breaking through and doing something for the first time that you've never done before. Lots of pressure, and realizing actually, as I'm talking through this, like you were on a world stage and didn't really know it, but you were. So let's share with everybody what that was. So you officiated a wedding. You've never done that before. You married a couple.
I did.
Like, really? Yeah.
For real.
And, and which means that you had to become an ordained minister. You then, which gives you the right to marry people anywhere in the world. In the case of Hawaii, you had to go one step further and get actually licensed in the state of Hawaii. And then you had to get on and marry this amazing world-class, Olympic class athlete, these couple, and they were in People magazine. Their wedding was featured in People magazine, and so anyways, it was quite a big deal. But let's talk a little bit about that. And first and foremost is that you've been working with Madison, Chock, and Evan Bates for how long now? 2 years.
Oh my gosh, 5 or 6 years now. And we started working right after the 2018 Olympics in Pyeongchang, and they moved to Montreal in 2019. And we started our journey back then when they really needed to have a new lease on life. They were coming off of not such a great result that they wanted in Pyeongchang in 2018. And they really looked to Ice Academy Montreal and the team there as a new lease on life. And we really heard that a lot over the course of the wedding, is that what happened was when you're creating an opportunity and stepping into a new environment, as they did, they were scared. It was brand new. I mean, when you think about what we've created in the Ice Academy Montreal, and even what we're working through in ice dance and sport all together, with Jadine and Skating Success, we're really trying to shift how athletes, and especially skaters right now, because we can really focus really only one sport at a time, how they're treated and who they get to become. And the honor that it was for one day, last year, Madison and Evan showed up in Vancouver and invited me for lunch at the Cactus Club downtown. And we were overlooking the 2010 Olympic flame in Cole Harbor. And right out of the blue, they just said, we're getting married next year and we want you to be our officiant. And I just burst into tears, and I had no idea. And they'd never seen me that emotional. It was really sweet. And they just like, it's okay. It's okay. It's a good thing. And I'm like, yeah, I know. It's just such an honor when you think about who I've had to become to be trusted at that level and to go through the hoops and to be that person that they look to when they are saying their vows. It just brings up so much emotion for me. And I remember our officiant at our wedding and, almost 30 years ago. And I still remember how I felt when he was speaking to us and he was speaking to our guests and our friends and family. And what an honor. And, when they asked me, I said, yes, of course, like I do. And with no information, I don't know where the wedding is. I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to be an officiant. I don't know what hoops, what's it going to cost? Where am I going to have to go? And one thing led to another, and we ended up here in beautiful Oahu and staying at the Four Seasons, and just having dinner with Maddie and Evan last night, and just really completing and going through the whole process and giving them that space to just be with their friends, their families. And to your point, it really was me having to access my performer self, and because I was scared. Thank God you were there because I could anchor to you, right? And then Marie-France was there, and she just said, just use your performer self. Come on, you got this. You've been teaching this for 30 years. If you don't do this now, then come on.
You got to live it. So, yeah.
You got to live it.
So it's so interesting, though, right, is that, it was, I don't know how many were at the wedding. I think probably close to 80,
96.
100 anyways.
96. 96.
There you go. 80 to 100. That's pretty close.
Yeah.
And it was fun, and we got to meet people. But I think it was, the message of all of this really is the reality of, facing some of our fears, saying yes without all the information, trusting that the circumstances will evolve and unfold to accommodate what it needs to be. I mean, Maddie and Evan, I think, to your point, it's quite an honor to actually be asked to do that. It's a big day in any married couple's life, is the day they get married. And for you to be the officiant. And I think it was really interesting about that because we had such a positive experience when we got married. We did have a justice of the peace, and I think he was 90 years old, and he was a little guy, 5'2", but just big and big personality, but such wisdom came out of his guidance that day. And, I'll just not forget that. And I don't think the audience would have either. And I think that was what was interesting about how you kind of realized what that was for us in that experience. And you actually created that experience, not just for Maddie and Evan, but for the audience, if you will, for her friends, their friends and family that were there to witness it all. And I mean, the feedback and the compliments that you got were the inclusion of the audience and what you did and how you did it. So you really did turn on your performer self. But back to, where I wanted to go with this all is that, we all have these opportunities that we sometimes have to lean into those fears. And out of that came this amazing opportunity, which was to be part of a very special day for somebody, in this case, Madison and Evan. And I think that's a really big deal. And I go back to many years ago, one of my biggest fears was public speaking. And I think back into those, I think back and I consider how many opportunities I missed or how the trajectory could have changed if I would have really leaned into it, faced that fear. I finally did, thanks to Don Campbell, thanks to you, thanks to the team around me. But it was not an easy journey for me. It was very, very difficult. And it took a long time to get comfortable on stage. And I mean, this many years later, having spoke to thousands of people on stage many, many times, there's always that hint of nervousness. And but if I would have leaned into that fear, no regrets, but you realize when you reflect is that, you at this stage in your life said yes to something that you'd never done before. And these are a pretty special couple. I mean, let's face it, People Magazine was here. They're part of People Magazine. I don't buy People Magazine, but I know it used to be a really big deal. I think it is. I mean, these are world-class, Olympic-class athletes. So it was a big deal, and you leaned into it and said yes, and you crushed it. So congratulations. Good for you. I'm proud of you. And I think there's some lessons in there.
I think there is. And part of the lessons for me, and hopefully, we can pass that on, is to really understand that, or understand, is how I explained it to the skaters. Like Maddie and Evan are 2-time world champions, and they didn't come to Ice Academy Montreal to work with me or to Marie-France Patrice as world champions. They came as, people 5th and 6th in the world and really struggling and not knowing what they were going to do in their life. And so they said yes. So they came, they got interviewed by our head coaches, Marie-France and Patrice, and we didn't say yes right away either. We had to go through a process. And I think, we talked about on our last podcast about change and how to embrace change and how do we, use change as a vehicle and not get thrown off by the chaos that change creates. So creating the environment that for us and for me is that I want to create an environment where people feel like they can change and they can go through the chaos and the turmoil and the things that change creates and know that there's an opportunity to come out the other side and everything's going to be okay. And I think that's what happened with me is that I knew that I was ready to elevate. I knew I was ready to go to another level, whether it was in business or in sport or whatever. When I said yes, the first time I said yes to the Oilers, the first time I said, yes, I'm going to leave the Oilers and go St. Louis. And then yes to, taking on a ice dance couple and at the world level, I said yes without knowing what any of that meant. And it's not saying yes and being irresponsible. It's saying yes and saying, have I set myself up with the skills and the tools and the support system around me so that when I do say yes, it's not irresponsible. It's not like, oh yeah, let's do this, but it was a yes. And then be able to step back and see that I've actually created the environment and the support around me that I could then create time to learn what I had to do in this example to become an ordained minister. So when you think about saying yes first, really, for me, it was having you knowing that you would support me and that you would come to Hawaii with me. Oh boy. And that you would be sitting in the back of the room, beaming love at me. And my friend, Mary France was there. And a lot of my clients, Lo and Nick and, and Jason and Olivia and Jean-Luc and, so many of the skaters that I work with. So I didn't feel that I was alone. I felt like my circle of support, my star was being supported by the people I'm normally supporting, which is hilarious, right? So it's knowing that you can come in and out and use that performer self. And I know maybe this is languaging that's not really familiar to some of our listeners, but in our think tank and in our Champions Journey work is that we do something called the circle of support. And when you believe, or for me, when I believe that when I'm stepping into my performer self and I'm just doing and being my true self, then it doesn't matter if you're judging me. It doesn't matter if you don't like me. It's just I'm doing what I need to do, coming from my heart, performing my authentic self and truly being safe. Because when you put what you want to put out there to the world to judge, you can't control what they're going to say. And I didn't know that people were going to love this particular ceremony. I rehearsed it. You saw me going through it. I didn't know if it was going to land for people. I wanted to be I wanted to include everybody and I wanted it to be fun. And I found out later that people were like clapping through different parts.
Yes, they were. It was hilarious. It was so good.
I've never been to a wedding where people clap.
Yeah, and then they would applaud. It was hilarious. So let me ask you this, though. When you think about over the years, you saying yes, there's to your point, this isn't about just randomly saying yes and being, irresponsible about it. I mean, this was a very important day. So you had to have some level of confidence that you'd be able to deliver. I mean, this was a very, 2 years of planning is like when Madison and Evan, when we went for dinner with them, we were sitting and they shared it was 2 years of planning and how it went and it was perfect and all the great things that, came out of it. But let me ask you this question is that when you say yes to things, go back even to the Oilers gig or 2006 when you took on Patrick Maria's clients. I think the other question that I would ask is, you don't know what skills you're going to need. You don't know what it's going to look like and how it's going to unfold. You'd never been an ordained minister before. You didn't even know what that really meant and what it took. And, so the question is this. Let me see if I can phrase it right. I look at it and say, okay, so you have to have confidence that you can become the person you need to become to deliver on that. Is that, like, how do you think of it? Because it isn't just an irresponsible, let's do this. It's at some point you said yes. And then there's some part of it going, okay, who do I need to become to actually deliver this? If I'm wording that quite right, any thoughts on that? Or you
absolutely. That's a really good point is that, it's like setting any goal. If you want to be world champion, you want to be NHL champion, you want to be, a business owner, CEO, you want to be the best super mom that you can be, you say yes to something. And then what do you have to do to step back? And for me, I always know that if I'm going to say yes to something, that it's a full-on yes. I'm committing. I can uncommit or unchoose if I find that I don't have the skills or I don't have the support that I need. But when I say my yes, and I know that I've done the things in my life to become the person that somebody would honor me with asking me to marry them in Hawaii. Like, to me, that says the process that I did and who I've had to become to that moment, I'm ready. So I just need to take the next step. And I think that's what I find a lot now with my clients and with different people, is that when they're offered an opportunity and they doubt themselves, but I wouldn't have been offered the opportunity to do this had I not done the work leading up to that, had I not built my credibility, had I not built a relationship and the trust. So when an opportunity shows up, you have to trust, or I had to trust that I was ready for it. And then I had to figure all the other stuff out.
Yeah, well, but think about that for a second, because, when you think about over the years, and well, let's just talk about, the expectations of a bride. And, Madison is a beautiful bride. She's just a wonderful lady, and, all the rest of it, but it's her wedding day. It's a big deal. And so, the confidence level that they have to have in you as the person that can deliver on that, knowing that you're not an ordained minister, but they're saying, yeah, but you're our mentor, you're our coach, you've made a huge difference in our life, and we think it would be amazing if you were the one that married us. And so at that point, you realize just how seriously any bride and groom would take that ask, and then the confidence in you to meet an expectation based on a world-class wedding. It was beautiful in Hawaii and outdoors, organized. It was like everything. It was an event for sure.
Oh, the who's who of skating was there, right? It was amazing.
Yeah,
World,
totally.
Olympic champions, judges, team leaders. It was unreal.
And the press.
And the press was
NBC
there. NBC and people. And oh, yeah, it was amazing.
People magazine. Yeah. So, but the point is that, there's a part of it that, I'm wondering on your own thought process over the years, and I live with you and married to you, and I'm still not sure I can identify how you do it. And I know where I support and all the rest of it, and I had 100% confidence in you. I certainly wasn't worried about what you would deliver. I've seen you speak and I know what you do, but it kind of brings me back to even, the thought process of what we do when we have presented so many years with major events with the Real Estate Investment Network or Think Tank. I mean, that's, to me, is people are trusting you with guiding them in their personal and professional development. And so we take what we do very seriously. And we are, we tweak, we fine tune, we just don't show up. I mean, there's weeks of preparation, arguably years of preparation before we do those kinds of events. And so, for you, these experiences that you've had over your lifetime and over your career, again, first female in the NHL, then going to the Olympics, and, the story of getting on the wrong bus and how that actually set the trajectory for a whole new, this life that you live and that we've been blessed to kind of be part of, and we'll one day have to share that story again about, there is no wrong bus. But so when you look at that and when you reflect, and so let's talk about, doing things for the first time and facing that fear. Is there one or two or three little things that you would share with people that they might want to consider?
Yeah, doing something I've never done before. So think about that. There's the unknown piece. That means I have to change, or if you're being presented something that you've never done before, there's something you have to do to evolve and change to actually be successful at that. And I think if the attitude of how do I want to show up? Do I want to be the best in the world at something? I knew I was never going to be, an Olympic athlete or Miss Canada, like the things that I always thought I would be, but I knew there would be something that I could be the best in the world at. And, to your point, your vision for people and your mission statement is for people to live their best lives, be their greatest selves. And to me, that translates into, okay, so how do I do that? So if, for example, a first, there's always a first. This is the first time I've officiated a wedding. There's a first. At my age, there's still going to be firsts. So to step in and embrace an opportunity, what is the first time? The first time you go on a date. Let's say the first time oh my gosh, you're going to have a child. The first time you're going to, say no to something. there's always going to be a first. And that first can sometimes seem so daunting, but really is just the eye of the needle. It's the window into your what's next. And the window into your what's next is understanding your yes. You know, as much as no is a powerful boundary, yes is a powerful creator. And if you can say yes to something that you've been uncomfortable, maybe looking at or trying, or you want to start a new workout program, or you want to say yes to a new healthy lifestyle or a new something, or you want to say yes to a divorce. I mean, it's saying yes, it's how you frame it. And there's always a first time. And when I think about all the firsts in our life, you know, the first time that we, you know, the first real estate property that we bought, and the first time we, you know, went on a beach vacation together, and there's the firsts, and understanding that it's not going to be the last. Like, the first is going to open the door to whatever is next. Like, maybe I can choose to never do this again, but I also have some people in my life that I'm possibly getting married, and maybe I could be a minister at their wedding as well. So the first will lead to something else. And if it doesn't, I'm okay with that.
I mean, yeah, of course. It's not like you're going to, well, maybe that's it. Your new side hustle is, you know, being an ordained minister and marrying couples.
Right.
That would be kind of fun. So, okay. So I think at the end of the day, you know, we wanted to do the podcast. We wanted to share, number one, a great experience that we had, but, you know, also the lessons and the kind of, I guess, the reflection of what it took to do that. And I think there's, you know, within any scenario at first, there was something else that, you know, you can't step over, which is there's a lot to, in order to say yes and then to pull it off, there's a lot that goes on in behind the scenes, because you have to create that environment. You have to create that support system. You have to do the diligence in terms of preparation and all of the rest of it. And I mean, that comes also with experience, right? Who do I surround myself with? How am I surrounded? And there's that side of it as well. It's like, I go back just to, you know, the first time I was on stage, when I finally got on stage. But ultimately, what opened up the door for me to actually doing that was the fact that I did I had a speaker coach, and I had you and Dawn and any number of people that were rooting for me, guiding me and making sure my presentation was tight and all of the rest of it. So, you know, setting yourself up. Hey,
don't step over this, cowboy. You're also coachable. And that's also, I don't want to step over that, is that I'm also coachable. You were coaching me through this whole time. Marie France was coaching me. Jay Dean was coaching me. You know, everybody was coaching me through this process to make sure that we were not stepping over things. So, you know, back in the day when you were learning how to be a speaker, and they were saying, you know, don't wear the suit jacket. You look too uptight. You're too aggressive. Try and smile. Like, you took whatever the coaching and you included and embraced it. And so to me, that's the thing about saying yes to something that you're uncomfortable with. Are you going to say yes and then try and do it your old way? But you didn't. You know, you said, yes, I'm going to learn how to do this. And you believed in Dawn. You believed in, you know, the people that were, you know, seeing that you had a message when it came to not just real estate, but mostly who you have to become to be a great real estate investor. And I think that's what you embodied, and that's what you personified, but you became coachable in that. And it's funny, you know, for a husband and wife team, we coach each other all the time. And I think that's very difficult in some couple relationships. And I just really want to acknowledge you for understanding that you had to become coachable in order to stretch into who you wanted to become in the space of education and real estate and really personal development. And I think that's where, I don't know if I'm going off the rails here, but ultimately, you know, when we think about what we want to do going forward, you know, this week has been a real awakening, I think, for you and I as a team and as a couple is the impact that we're having. And all we have to do is be ourselves. You know, I can't try too hard. I can't worry that, you know, there's no pictures of me or whatever. I can't worry that, you know, it's just, you know, it's not about me. And when you get to that point and you're so, like for you, it's not about you. You're so coachable and you're more committed to your message than you are to your ego. I mean, to me, that's what's going to take us to the next level, and whatever that level is.
Looks like, whatever that looks like. Yeah, there's first. It's like this podcast. It's like Mindset Matters. These were all things that we just kept leaning into and moving forward. lots of judgment, lots of opinions from people. Oh my gosh, it's crazy.
Right, because we're not experts. We're not psychologists.
Okay, well, listen, folks, more to come. I land, and then I'm off to Toronto. So you're going to be hearing this on the Thursday. I'm going to be on an airplane flying to Toronto for an event. Then we're back, and I'm back home. So I got lots going on over the next 10 days, even subsequent to this particular podcast.
Well, anybody that's in Toronto or the Ontario area, maybe former Ring members or people that maybe want to, reach out to you. Like, I think it'd be really fun.
There's time. There's time. They're going to be listening. There's going to be listening to this on Thursday.
Yeah.
I'm going to be in Toronto on Thursday night. So anyways,
it'll be fun.
That's all I got. Okay.
All right.
Steffany, any final words? Any parting words?
Well, thanks for being here, hon. And I just want to acknowledge the journey that it took to get us here. And the fact that we're going to go do new pictures tonight. That's why we're kind of dressed up. We're doing new headshots. And I'm super proud of us. And I know we battle and we work through our stuff, but I love you. I respect you. And I'm so grateful that you were here this week while I got to officiate my first wedding. So
fun. Fantastic. Yes. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for listening. Hope you enjoyed the show.
That was fun.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening. If you found value in the podcast, please take the time to rate and review and share with others. Share with your friends. As it is my goal to always improve and to provide the highest value for you, the listener. If you have any comments, suggestions, or questions you'd like answered, please email me at ceo@reincanada.com. That's ceo@reincanada.com. I look forward to hearing from you. And until next time, Patrick out.